Welcome to The Hard Truth Inside the Football Industry podcast. It's with me, Philip Ideson, and Peterborough United chairman and co-owner, Darragh MacAnthony. And we're getting into a bit of a routine here on the pod. So we're going to go with three sections today. First, Darragh and I are going to catch up on some topics of the day. And, I'm sure that we could actually do that for the next hour, but we'll see how we keep that, how short we keep that. Then we're going to go into some listener-driven Q&A. And then we're going to wrap up just by going beyond the four walls of football. So let's get started, Darragh. You're back in the UK. You're in quarantine. How's that treating you?
Yeah, welcome everybody. Excited doing the first episode kind of cross Atlantic.
Yeah.
You're in Florida, I'm now back in Surrey in the UK. And I apologise if I have to answer the house phone or if I have to answer the front door. With the quarantine rules, obviously you give all your details, you fill in a health form, and they can doorstep you at any time.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've been here 5 days now, and there's been no doorstep and no phone call so far. But
it'll be typical.
Yeah, it'll be just typical during the podcast. I got some guy at the front. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, it was a lot of anxiety when I was traveling. I'm not the best traveler usually, but I'm one of those people that's got to be at the airport 3 hours early and, never miss a flight. But
yeah.
I was quite anxious about, I think I got drunk the night before because I was just so anxious about what was it going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
Usually I fly direct from Orlando to the UK. I had to go via Miami because there's no flights anymore from Orlando to the UK because of everything going on with BA. So I flew to Miami, wore the mask. That was fine. To be fair, the flight from Florida to Miami was pretty full at the front where I was in first class. I'm not trying to brag, but it was mainly pilots and air hostesses that had been upgraded from other airlines so they were all right next to me. It was quite tight. And then the back of the plane was empty. And Miami's a bit of, I don't know if you know Miami Airport, it can be a right shit zone for arriving in, like it's just packed. And I only had an hour to make my connection. So I'm already flapping and getting quite stressed. I'm trying to get off the plane. And I'm no word of a lie, fella. I took a video of it. It's like a zombie zone. There was no one in the airport. I basically made my way over. It was almost like walking through a terminal that was under construction where no one's allowed in. There was just no one there.
Yeah.
And then I got on my BA flight and it was me and one other person in first class. And then I think there was probably 50 people on the airplane. Wow. And look, I wore my mask as much as I could. Obviously, you're having food or you're drinking coffee or tea. But I did. And that was the hardest part, like being in a mask for like nearly 14 hours in a day.
Right.
Honest to God, the sweat, you're so uncomfortable. But in fairness to BA, they're doing the best they can. I mean, they served all the food in a special tinfoil thing, in a bag, in a box, and everything's pre-packed. And it was okay. It was fine. And I was really stressed about arriving into Heathrow because I'd seen all the rules about Spain now you have to get home and quarantine. So I thought, Christ, there's going to be a rush at the airport. So I get off the flight. I'm thinking, oh my God, this is going to be like a long line. I've got my documents, and in fairness, like in America, they checked my health form. I did. In advance, you have to do it 48 hours before you travel. So I get there, I land, I get off the plane. Within 20 seconds, I'm at the front of the counter. There's no one there. The guy looks at me. He's like, where have you come from? I'm like, America. I gave him the form. He looked at it, waved me on my way. From the plane to my car outside was 6 minutes.
Wow.
It was that easy. It was that quick. No anxiety.
It's like your own private terminal there.
Well, and I've been in a few of those in the good old days. And it was, to be fair. And basically, my driver picked me up and came home. And what I'd done, I got the club to send me, because we buy testing kits because we have to test the players. So I got a couple of tests that I've paid for. I've been in my house since I've arrived, but I waited till today because sometimes they say it can take 3 or 4 days with the virus. You could do a test on day one. You never know what to believe, do you? Right. So I thought, well, I'll wait 3 or 4 days and then I'll do the test. So I did the test myself this morning. What's amazing is you pay all this money to this testing company, and our football admin person has to administer all the testing. So she sent me instructions how to do it. And in America, you keep hearing about where they go up the back of your nostril, into the back of your head. A load of bullshit here as regards to that. It's completely different. You get a swab in there's a test tube with liquid in it. You break the swab, you put it in the back of your throat to touch your tonsils, and then you swirl it in each nostril 2 centimeters, and then put it into the tube with the liquid. And then I've sent it away today, and I'll get the result tomorrow. Now,
that's pretty quick.
That's pretty well. We pay for that. I mean, they're not cheap, and obviously it's a football operated thing. By tomorrow, I'll know. But the sad thing is, and the ridiculous fucking thing is, and this is which does my head in, is that if I come back negative tomorrow, I still have to quarantine.
Yeah.
And that's where the left doesn't know what the right's doing. You know, you got all these people on holiday and now told they have to quarantine, they've got jobs. And they come, you know, we'd rang up originally and said, what if he tests? If he tests, and they're like, no, still has to do the quarantine. That makes no sense whatsoever. I don't quite understand what they're doing there. And it doesn't make life easy for people. I understand that, you know, we don't spread the virus and whatever, but if you get it, you know, I'm happy to do 3 days worth of testing.
Yeah.
And after that, you go, well, I should be allowed out, right? Now, in all fairness, I would imagine a lot of people are leaving their house. I'm trying to do things the right way. Like we had a game on Saturday. I didn't go to the game. You know what I mean? We got a game tomorrow night. I'm going to go to the game. You know, my manager doesn't even want to see me because he's like frightened.
That's a great excuse not to see the boss, isn't it?
Well, he's frightened of his own shadow over this. And look, fair play. I respect everyone's opinion, but he's just like, you know, where you've just come from, and I can't be saying. I'm like, well, we can, you know, we can meet in my house or we can do whatever. I'll get the test back. He's, I don't want to meet with you. You know, I'm like, Jesus Christ Almighty. You know what I mean? So anyway, so from that perspective, yeah, we'll find out tomorrow, and I guess I'll let everyone know next week what the result is.
Yeah.
You know? But you know, so far so good. I've been just doing work from home. I've been jet lagged. I've been up every night till 4 a.m. So
I've seen some pretty late emails coming across, thinking, you know what, you should be in bed by now.
My eyes are like sheep's fannies. Honest to God, like I am jet lagged. I mean, I can't sleep till 4. I get up at 11. My sleeping pattern is completely distorted. I'm basically doing work. I'm watching crap on TV, like movies. I'm playing a bit of Football Manager, you know, to pass the time, you know, and yeah. So I'm just like I want to get out, but I want to do things the right way. And I think, you know, that's probably half of the problem with this whole virus, that people haven't done things the right way. So it is what it is, you know.
So I have to ask, who are you on Football Manager then?
At the moment, I started being, I want to say I was Yeovil in non-league, and then I ended up in Peterborough, and I think I had a stint at Liverpool, then a stint in Spain, and now I've been, and don't, as a Liverpool fan, I shouldn't say this, but Man United ended up getting relegated to non-league, so I took them over and took them back to the top. Do you know what I mean? So I think I'm Man United at the moment, and but it's getting a bit boring. You know what I mean? Winning so many titles, so I might have to take another challenge again. You know, so the game's so addictive. But I don't play the modern game. I play the 01 game from 2001, which to me was the best ever version of it. So back in the day, you know, where the Belarusian guy Tizgalko was like a prolific goal scorer, and players like
Kennedy Basirki-Oglu and all those.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the version of the game I actually play. But what I do it because when you've got a busy mind like mine, I find it's a great escape. Like if I do that for 2 hours, it's a great escape just from reality, normality, all the crap going on in the world. So yeah. Anyway, that's one of my kind of bad habits.
Well, it's kind of funny. I'm sure we could have a separate episode on the joys of Championship Manager and then Football Manager. I think I spent pretty much my entire childhood playing that thing.
Correct, absolutely. My wife calls me a child when she sees me playing it.
Now, you mentioned that on Saturday you had your first preseason game. If Twitter's anything to go by, you didn't actually miss that much. But I'm sure it was nice to be back.
No, I paid obviously to have it streamed to myself and my partners. And yeah, look, it's minutes. You know what? Barry Froh always used to say, pay no attention to preseason. It's a load of bullshit. It's just minutes in the tank. We looked rusty as anything. We looked like we hadn't played football for 5 months, which we haven't. But it was good minutes in the tank. It was good for some of the young players to get some minutes. We have another game tomorrow night. It'll help more because it's on our home patch and our training ground, and we have like one of those special mixed-up pitches we paid a lot of money for. Stamford, you know, great local club. You know, and we'll do anything to help them. Tomorrow night, I think I can't say who we're playing again because people might be rushing down, and I wasn't allowed to talk about who we were playing. So yeah, the game on Saturday, nothing to scream about. Young youth team has scored the goal. Minutes in the tank, no injuries, touch wood, which is always the key. Yeah. And then on with the next one, and they're going to come fast and thick. We go to St. George's for pre-season camp in 2 weeks' time. I'll be there, staying there. We're there for like 5-6 days. I want to say we're playing. Who are we playing? We're playing a couple of good teams. One championship team and one, I want to say, League One team. Back to back in 2 days. So they'll be good games to watch and good pitches.
Yeah, I'm sure for now it's just all about starting to get like rid of some of the rustiness. It's you hear and you listen to all the footballers talk all the way through the lockdowns, and they're kind of getting the miles in on the road and keeping the fitness, but it's a different game when you're coming and starting to kind of get the technical side of the game back.
Massive, because like we biggest problem with us was muscle waste, where the players had lost muscle, and whatever else, and it's building that back up. And it's one thing when you're running 5, 6, 7 miles, but then again, it's all the other physical activity that you have to do, and a lot of the players don't have gym equipment, and lockdown is really, really difficult. So at the moment, they've been back 2 weeks now. It's just minutes in the tank, playing the games. They all know each other already. We've a really settled squad. They're probably at 50, 60% in these games. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't ramp up. It won't ramp up until the final week. So people sometimes get upset about preseason results. It's a load of bullshit. I remember going into the championship, we had our worst preseason. I don't think we won in 7 games. And I basically had a row with the manager in the final preseason game. So what the fuck are we doing? This is awful. And it was our best season in the championship.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
It's interesting how you try and take things from because you're looking for anything. You've been starved of football for a few weeks. You're looking to see all the new players, and you're wanting to see, we've got a title-winning team lined up, and then in our case, we're going to lose 7-2, to Harrogate. Which credit to them, a couple of years later, here we are, and they just got themselves in the Football League.
Wow.
But that was an eye-opener for us. That season we got relegated.
Yeah, so that's pre-season. You just forget about results. Forget about what your players look like. It doesn't determine how good your season's going to be. Mm-hmm. I think Liverpool last pre-season were absolutely shite. I remember watching 2 or 3 of their games last summer, and they got battered a few times playing in those games. They didn't look good. Again, it's minutes. That's all it is. It's fitness. It's patterns of play. It's formations. It's introducing new people to the club, the way you play. And it's a chance for young players should shine more than anyone else. Because if you're a 17-year-old or an 18-year-old and you're getting a chance with the first team squad to play in those games, you should look like you've got to be giving it everything. You've got to be running the hard miles. You've got to be trying your best. And when you see young players, if they don't do that in these preseason games, you can pretty much say that's a player with an attitude issue. Because now's the time they really work hard.
Yeah, because it's a much higher risk for a manager to give them that opportunity during the season, isn't it?
Correct. Absolutely. If a young player comes in pre-season and scores 6, 7 goals and looks absolutely electric, he suddenly solidifies his place in the squad. And that's key. So there's never a better time for a young player than pre-season, because that's when they can really stick their flag in the sand and go, I'm ready for the first team. But so on to tomorrow night's game.
So we talked last week a little bit about Sheffield Wednesday, and how your expectation that they may get a slap on the wrist, but are they going to get any more than that? And here we are, minus 12 points later, but that 12 points applying next year to, I guess, get the EFL out of a little bit of a hole of what to do this year with relegation. What do you think about all of that?
We spoke last week about it should have happened earlier as regards to the decision.
Yeah.
I don't know how the points penalty works. If that's the rules, it's 12 points or 10 points or 8 points or 20 points or whatever it might be. I know clubs in the past have had it. I think Birmingham had it, didn't they, last year, whatever else. And I don't know the legalities of the whole stadium thing. I believe they missed the year when they were meant to file it.
Yeah, they reported it in the year prior to when the transaction happened or something like that.
And I understand people will go, well, Charlton will have a lawsuit in Wigan. I don't think I buy into that. Do I think Sheffield Wednesday deserves to be relegated? No, I don't. And I don't see a lot of people are doing this stadium thing. I don't, there hasn't been a big ruling showing that it's illegal to do. I'm not sure how they keep getting it wrong. Derby obviously have a case at the moment. Wednesday have just gone through it. The other problem the EFL would have had is that if Wednesday had been sent down now, there would have been probably an injunction, a serious lawsuit. I know other clubs have talked about law. Look, you've gone down, you've gone down. If you get a reprieve because of something happening with points deduction, great. But the reality is, if you're in the bottom 3, you deserve to be there for a reason. Yeah. So you take your medicine and you move on. It doesn't sound nice, particularly for Wigan fans or Charlton fans, but that's just the way it goes. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. EFL need to learn. This stuff needs to be done prior. There needs to be certain rules cemented in place so to justify why next season and not this season. I guess the argument would be if you'd given the decision 6 months ago, Wednesday knew they had to hit a certain target and they would have known in advance. So now you're setting that out in stone for next season. Wednesday start minus 12. So that's happened with other clubs as well. I think Bolton and administration came into League One with minus X amount of points. So from the start, Coventry had it quite a few seasons ago.
Yeah.
It's so messy. Let's just make rules firm, stick them in place. Let's have the procedure of when there's a hearing, let's get it done quicker. Let's get appeals done quicker, because these clubs now threatening lawsuits. They haven't got time to start a new season if they're going to get caught up in court. And trust me when I say lawsuits aren't cheap. I've been through tribunals. Even though we won them all and we got our legal fees back, it cost us 150 grand in advance in legal fees. But with some clubs, that's like a month's wages.
Yeah, that's, you kind of preempted my follow-up, because I feel the same about, at the end of the day, you get a bad decision on the pitch, and you can complain about it, but that's football. Everyone kind of enters into the season with the same rules, and now you have folks who are negatively impacted by things that are going on outside the football pitch. It sounds like you say, it sounds tough, or that there's no empathy in saying it or anything, but if you're in the bottom three, unfortunately you get relegated, whether you're unlucky, whether there's other circumstances. It's just the way it goes. And next year you got to prove that you're too good for the league that you're in now, and make a push of getting back promoted again.
That's the hard truth, Philip.
Yeah. All right. Well, salary cap. So we touched on this every week so far, because it's the thing that keeps on giving, and you think that it's going to be behind us. So the last I heard was that there's a vote this week. Is that still the case?
I think so. I got like a 20-page document the other day. Yeah. So I haven't read all 20 pages, but it's happening. I'm not sure it's going to happen this season, and in fact, I think it's definitely going to be rolled over to next season.
Right.
And I think they're like adjusting lots of it. So we'll see. It's one of them things. As I said to you last week, maybe it shouldn't have been rushed this year. It should have been put in place for next year.
It seems like that's the right thing to do. It's just I don't think there's any arguments. Well, I'm sure there are arguments, but I think generally speaking, salary cap is a good thing, because we need to do something to kind of bring costs under control, at least in League One, League Two. But it seemed like it was rushed. So perhaps that's the good thing, is that it's still going to be there, but now everyone's not figuring out their planning for next season, not knowing what they can spend and what they can't spend.
Correct. So, well, look, we were in lockdown a long time. If you were going to get it right, it should have been started early.
Yeah.
And unfortunately it wasn't. It came in around May, June. It was like, oh, we're going to do this, and this is what we've been like investigating. At this point now, I don't know. As soon as I know something concrete, and if there is a vote, I'll let you know. But I don't think that's going to pass for this season.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, the last topic that I have before we go into the break and then we take some questions is on the topic of buying players from non-league. So,
Sure.
Why did that come up? This time of year, you see lots of, this guy scored 50 goals for Matlock Town or whatever, and is now being heralded as the best thing since sliced bread, and, a bunch of League One and League Two clubs are after him. It always seems interesting who succeeds and who fails when you bring players out of non-league.
Sure.
It's been some pretty successful. You've had some successful forays into non-league. Yeah. I wonder, what are the risks? What are the opportunities? Kind of, how do you go about looking at somebody in non-league and making the call? Are they good enough to take the step up? Or are you just looking, hey, I'm going to bring 10 in. It's going to be pretty relatively low cost and maybe one or two hits. And, it's more of a numbers game.
So you think risk reward numbers game? No, we don't do the numbers game. We've bought a lot of non-league players. Good majority of them have done really well. The ones who haven't even done well have gone on our football league careers.
Yeah.
So we've always identified them really well. I don't want to go into too much what we look at, because there's
you don't want to give away the secret sauce.
No, there's a formula, but safe to say, I've got my information I study on non-league. I've got a couple of young scouts who work for me, who away from the football club, they work personally for me. They go and watch and watch and watch, and then if they pass the smell test, we then say to the manager and Barry Fry, go and take a look.
Mm-hmm.
Are our eyes right? And then from that moment on, then we do a bit of digging and investigation into the character of the player. There's so many things you look at with a non-league player. One thing for me is age. Yeah. Bar Jamie Vardy, which is an anomaly, a 26-year-old, a 25-year-old coming from non-league. You're going to hit the sweet spot. It's between 18 and 23. That's the sweet spot. You go a bit higher than that, 25, 26, 27, the chances become less and less of that person playing higher than League Two.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't buy a non-league for a player to play in League Two or League One. We buy with the potential they can go all the way with us.
Yeah.
That's what we do. So there is a bit of science involved. There is a bit of data involved. It's never perfect. I'll give you an example. We bought Jack Taylor. We spent nearly $1 million on him last January from Barnet, and they were a non-league. What worked about Jack was he had great pedigree from Chelsea as a kid. He then spent 2 years in the Football League.
Yeah.
Then Barnet dropped into the non-league, and he's obviously continued. So we're not really buying a non-league player, but we know we're buying a player with a great technical pedigree. So the technical side's already there. We know he's been brought up well because he was at one of the top clubs in the world. We know he's gone to a club like Barnet, which is brilliant with young players. So all the ingredients are in place. Now we have to look at in our team. Will he go on our team? Will he make an impact in League One? How quick can he step up? Because the level of training is very different in non-league to League One. Sometimes there's a 3, 4, 5 month period. And he came in and he did brilliant for us. And he was one of our best players and he helped turn our form around. And we've already had a bid for under $2 million from this summer. So that just, again, shows you, we laughed at that. So he's just a massive part of our team. But he ripped his hamstring near the end of the season. And the reason he probably did that was because of the step up in intensity and the step up in training, the step up in match time. So now he's back and he's fully fit. We now have a program to bring him up to speed with League One preseason training. So he's one. Obviously, we've signed so many others. And another day I can go into more stories about that. But we always try and be respectful to a non-league club. We give them a fair price. We give them a great sell-on. And the sell-on is where they make a lot of the money.
Yeah,
we've paid, I think, Dagenham over the years have received over £2 million from us in sell-ons and transfer deals from players we bought and sold from them. So I love buying players in the league or non-league, seeing them do well and the money come back in. I hate seeing players, the Premier League will sell a domestic player and then go and invest 50 million of it in France or in Italy. It drives me mad. I would like more of the money to trickle down into the leagues. I think that's the way it should be. I've always advocated for that.
Yeah, it keeps it in the system, like in the pyramid, doesn't it?
Correct. And that's really important.
Now, just on the topic of non-league, it kind of brings together the thinking of the salary cap. One of the things in my mind, we talked last week about League One and League Two players are really going to have to get used to it, there being a new normal in terms of wages, at least at that level. Is that going to push better players into non-league, do you think? Because they can actually earn more money in professional teams in non-league or even part-time than would ordinarily have come in. So it's almost like this, you've now got the National League being a higher quality than League Two and perhaps some League One.
It's the fourth division. I mean, the National League is, you're joking me, some of the clubs in there, Notts County, Wrexham.
Right.
I mean, they're League One football clubs, if not higher. So there's some big clubs that got lost in non-league. And sometimes they say like Luton, you go in there and you're stuck there for a few years. You Luton, Lincoln, clubs like that. So when I bought Peterborough, if you look at the League Two table, the amount of clubs that have A, gone out of existence or B, gone into non-league, it's scary.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's going to push more players in. I think the problem non-league's going to have, we can survive a couple of months without crowds. I'm not sure non-league clubs can.
Yeah.
They don't have the same TV deal. So they're going to need sugar daddies, rich people, behind the scenes covering the wages. But at one point a year ago, I was hearing some clubs in non-league were paying like up to $2,000 a week, which is scandalous. You know what I mean? That kind of money in non-league. But listen, if you're a rich owner and you want to buy a club and you want to do that, that's up to you. The guy at Billericay, I think he went in, he was paying, $1,000, 1,500 quid a week. Fair play. It's your money. You're allowed to do it. There's no rules in place to stop it. That's the dream, right? That's the football manager dream. If you've won the lottery, you can go and buy, forget about your beloved Bradford. You got the other Bradford down there.
Yeah, go and buy Park Avenue, Bradford Park Avenue. And
you go buy them. You go get a load of grand a week players. You go through the leagues and you're in the football league and you got the Bradford Derby.
Yeah.
So that's the dream, right? And that's happened with some people. So it's I'm not sure loads of players will go down there. I don't think there'll be as much money this year in non-league as before. But I stand by what I said last week, that there's a reckoning coming for League One and League Two players, and that's going to be in their pay packets, and they're going to have to wake up and realise that.
All right, well, we're going to take a short break, and after the break, we're going to be back with some listener Q&A. Thanks for tuning in to today's podcast. Now, if you stay tuned throughout the entire show, we'll share with you how you could have a chance of winning £500 in cash just by listening to the Hard Truth podcast. Hi there, everybody. Welcome back to the Hard Truth podcast. So we're going to go into some listener questions that we have for Darragh. And the first one is from Neil Pickles. Neil asks, so in reality, how much influence do clubs like Peterborough and Bradford have over the value of their players when bigger clubs actually want them?
Oh, yeah. I always say that you should have full influence and full control, unless there's a release clause, which very rarely happens with us. We don't do release clauses. We did it in one particular situation with a player who was like running his contract down. So we got him to sign a new one with a really big release clause. But I turn it down every time we speak to a player, particularly a young player we're signing. Agents ask for a percentage of the release clause, a percentage of the transfer fee. I guess it comes down to who has the money to say no or yes.
Yeah.
And that's where it can be really difficult. And if you're a club that's cash flow sensitive and you need cash flow to pay bills, and I guess now everyone thinks, it's the pandemic, so now's the time. And someone leaves it till deadline day and starts like making offers. We had it last deadline day last summer. We had 4 different bids for the same player right up until an hour before. But we made the decision. My partners are really good like that. They're very well off and they knew the importance of keeping that player. So the decision was made. Even on deadline day, if a silly offer comes in, it'll be no. And the offers kept coming in. And I'm out like doing like my walks. I'm trying to lose weight. And the phone calls kept coming in from Barry. Oh, they've come up to this amount. Now they're paying this up front. It's a hell of a deal. I'm like, no, fuck off. Tell them no. So with League One and League Two clubs, it's always difficult because it's not just the value, it's the player as well.
Yeah.
So you got the player who wants to go. And we just discussed all fair. It's life-changing money.
Yeah.
If you have a player on $2,000 a week or $3,000 a week, and they're being offered 17, 18, 19 grand a week, it's really, really difficult to stop that young person further in their career for them and their family. And, family comes first. Mm-hmm. And I guess we're all slaves to money in some way or another, because we have mortgages to pay, bills to pay, families to support. And if someone comes to you now and says, look, Phil, you're great in a podcast with Darragh, but you know what? We're going to pay you $2,000 a week to do it with us instead of him.
Yeah.
I understand when you say, Darragh, good luck and goodbye. And because you're laughing, but everyone has a price, right?
Yeah.
And it's that old saying in life, where someone's at a party and they see a beautiful person and they go over and say, would you sleep with me for £1 million? And the person suddenly, their eyes start fluttering and going, ooh, really? And then you turn and go, actually, would you do it for £1? And the person goes, what do you take me for? And the answer is, well, we've established that already. Now we're negotiating the price.
Yeah.
We're all like that. And that's just life. That's human nature. So I guess, it depends on the club. Everyone wants the best deal for their player. That's just the way it goes. And it also depends on contract situation. It depends on player wanting to go on strike or not wanting to play. Mm-hmm. We've been very fortunate. We had a lot of interest in Ivan in January. We had multiple bids. The player never kicked up a fuss. He totally understood where we were coming from. Of course, he wants to further his career and do well.
Right.
But not once did he miss training, not once did he complain, not once did he ring me screaming and shouting or go into the manager. So if you can get a really good level-headed person, they can understand where you say, look, give us 6 more months and then we'll do a deal for you in the summer.
Yeah.
And if they're okay with that, then it works. So, but usually you've got a figure in your head. And if someone gets to the figure in your head you agree on, you're like, okay, we'll do the business.
And then when you think about player power, if you will, in terms of forcing through a transfer, does it do anything? So when you're looking on the flip side, looking to buy a player, and that player is kicking up a fuss at his club and making it uncomfortable for them because he wants out and he wants his move, and the move may not be at market value. Do you look at that then and the character of that player and think, what? Is that somebody that I want in my squad, or does that play any role at all?
It does. You investigate players' characters. You investigate the disciplinary issues they've had over the years. You investigate any negative headlines associated with a player. Did they commit an assault outside of football? Have they ever been arrested? Have they ever gone on strike? Have they ever been dropped from the team for a period of time? Are they high maintenance? And like you said there, did they cause real issues in the previous transfer? And that does play in your mind. But football's football. Managers are really funny. They'll sometimes look past that as a good player.
They want him so much.
Go find that player, you know what I mean? So, but all those things play a part in my decision making, like it did with injuries. I have a statistical analysis that, if a player only plays on average 25 times a year, we tend not to sign them.
Yeah.
Because that tells you over a period of time that they're injury prone. And I've had a rows with my manager about certain players. Once I went ahead and signed a player for him, but warned him he averaged 19 games a year, and the player broke down multiple times. And, we're always very cautious about that because clubs in League One and League Two can't carry players with injury issues. So for me, injury history is a big part of a player when we're doing a transfer. Big part.
And I'm sure it's difficult for a manager because you get access to talent that you wouldn't ordinarily get access to, but it's because they have that baggage. There's a reason why it's a knockdown price, and you're the one that's hoping to change it. They'll get lucky.
But that's what clubs like us do. I mean, we wouldn't be able to sign players, over the years if they were perfect, angels.
Yeah.
They've been kicked out of Premier League clubs for a reason. They've dropped down to non-league for a reason. They've been released from academies for a reason. Some of it's not just about ability. Some of it's about attitude. Young players can have an attitude young on when they get big contracts, and then their attitude, they grow up. And we take an investment in, and you could call it a punt, that we can turn a player's character around. I've always liked hiring young people because I don't believe anyone's personality should define them at 20 or 21.
Right.
I think when you get past 24, it should be defined. But I think between 17, 18 to 23 is that key period of time where you can change people for the better and they can grow up. And I've always based it on me, myself. I was a bit of a messer from 18 to 22. And then the penny dropped to 23. And I was kind of written off early on, even though I was a maverick and very good at what I did. I was fired early on because I was too much of a maverick. But by 23, I'd grown up. And I tried to give that benefit of the doubt to lots of young players who've got a bit of a chip on their shoulder, a bit of a reputation, that I can remodel them and I can help them mature. And that's really key.
Mm-hmm. Now, talking about kind of player power, we have a question from Hugo Ortiz. And Hugo asked, how much influence, and I guess the context to this is you often hear about managers being sacked because they lost the dressing room, or at least that's kind of the party line that is sometimes kind of put in the press or that supporters take from why those decisions were made. How much influence do players generally have in a manager getting sacked?
I've been out 15 years. I've fired a lot of managers, as people know. No players have ever really influenced me firing a manager. No one's ever rang me directly. No one's ever walked up to my office. No one's ever come to me on the training ground. If they did, they'd get a really aggressive response to fuck off.
Yeah.
Go on, I have to talk badly about a manager. I think it's a respect thing. What you do tend to see is you hear snippets. You'll hear stuff from the staff at the training ground. Oh, the training ground is really somber. It's a really depressing place. This is happening. When things aren't good, all the shit comes out. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
I mean, all the flush goes.
It's always somebody else's fault too.
Correct. And that's just it. When things aren't going well and a manager's not winning, things tend to come quickly upwards to you. You find out a lot of stuff. And then you can also for yourself know if players are still giving it. If they're giving it 100%.
Yeah. And
I've always said the really funny thing is we could lose 4 games in a row. And I could bet you right now $5,000. If I fired the manager, those players would go and win the next 2 games. Because that's what footballers are like. Mm-hmm. It's weird. And I've seen it happen so many times. Every time I fired a manager, pretty much 99% of the time, the following results are like positive. You're winning games. Yeah. Players decide, and sometimes you just know when a manager has lost players. Sometimes you can get it wrong, and I've done that before. Sometimes you back the players over the manager when it should be the other way around.
Yeah.
I fired Fergie for the second time. We'd reached the end of the road with a certain squad. The squad needed to be turned over. It needed a real facelift, and I changed him instead of the squad. And what I should have said at the time was we weren't going down, we weren't going up. I should have said, you know what? This lot aren't doing it. Come the end of the season, 80% of them will go. We rebuild. I'm fully behind the manager. Because I believe in the manager, and this isn't him. This is the quality of players he's got in front of him, and that's something I regret not doing the second time around.
Yeah, it's easy for the manager to be the fall guy, isn't it?
Easy peasy. Now, saying that, managers can be their own, can cause their own issues. They can do. Managers are a real strange species. They can do the most stupid things. You've heard of tinkermen. Managers who tinker. Mm-hmm. They'll play a right back as a striker. They'll play a striker as a central midfielder. They'll be winning games and then change a formation, or they'll change a winning team and they'll do whatever. All managers are the same. They think they're the smartest people in the world. and unfortunately, you can blow up on them. And I've seen it so many times where you're on a winning run. The team's fully fit and they go, yeah, but this is a different opposition. So we're going to take him out of here and that partnership in the middle or that partnership up front. And we're going to put someone else in there. And it backfires and they fucking lose. And then they wonder why afterwards. Why did they lose? It's like, so managers can be their own worst enemies. Do you know what I mean? And that goes on too. So they're not perfect, and they're not immune to criticism. It's lower league football, and the one thing you know about football managers is you're going to get sacked when you become one.
Yeah.
That's just a given job.
Yeah, the only question is how long it's going to take.
Correct.
So have you ever had a manager that's tinkered to prove a point to you? You know, maybe there's been some debate about whether a certain player is good enough, or whether there's a gap in the team that needs filling, and you know you've had a disagreement, and so he's basically done something to stick two fingers up and like say, "See, I told you so."
Yeah, I mean, a few years ago, the manager who hated probably our best player, with a vengeance, and he just venomed him. And the guy was our best player. So what the manager did was he would, not play him, bring him on as a sub. The guy would come on as a sub and score or make a goal. And then the manager put him in as a left back when he was a number 10. And fair play to the player, as a left back, he created 2 goals. One of them was like an 80-yard crossfield pass for the striker, And so there are managers who can be like that and be a little bit. I had another manager years ago. I went away for a few days with a family, and I said, "Look, just leave me alone for 72 hours. I'm just going to spend time with the family." And there'd been a player who had been fined 2 weeks' wages for being sent off. He had discipline issues, and the manager wouldn't leave me alone. And the manager basically was like, "I disagree with the fine." I'm like, "The club's made a decision. It's the policy. It was the vote. It's a 2-week fine." "Yeah, but I don't agree. I'm going to look bad to the player. You need to lift the fine." And I just said, "Look, leave it alone. I'm away. I'll ring you in 2 days." He wouldn't leave it alone. He sent a 3-page email that night. And in the email, he basically threatened to leave. And he put in the email that if he got a pay rise, he'll stay. And all these ridiculous demands. I remember showing my wife, and she was like, "He doesn't know you very well, does he?" And at that point, it was dead for me.
Yeah.
And it was like, "You're fucking out of here whenever I get a chance." Because when I tell you, give me a couple of days, give me a couple of days. But then 6 phone calls, 10 texts, 3 emails. Do you know what I mean? It's like, back off. It's a fine for a player. It's not the end of the world. Sometimes managers can fight the wrong battle, and it's a wrong thing to do. Or sometimes they do it because they want the sack and they want the payoff, and they can't take the pressure.
Yeah, they're just stirring the pot.
Yeah, there's the flip side to that too.
Next question comes from Jacket on Twitter. So as a chairman, if fans have got fed up and disillusioned with the style of football, but from a business sense, things are going well, like, what's your trade-off? Are you looking at it saying, well, maybe the manager's got to go, and that's in the question. Like, do you get rid of the manager because everyone's disappointed and disillusioned with the football? It's not getting bums on seats. It's not exciting, all those things. Or are you looking at it saying, you know what? From a financial point of view, things are going well. Let's kind of stick with it.
Style of play is really important to me. It always has been. I went away from it once and it was a mistake. And I stick to my guns now. Whoever manages for Peterborough United, my partners are on board with this as well, I think, because they're both football fans. We want to see good football. We want to see attacking football. We want to see the ball played properly. We want to see our strikers scoring goals. We want to see our centre half step out and pass. That is the modern football for you. And you've seen it with clubs over the years. You've seen Sheffield United go from League One to the top, playing with 3 at the back with, centre halves that overlap, and things that Chris Wilder has done. You want to see good football. But it's not to say that sometimes you can't go direct. We at Ivan Toney, doesn't mean we're a direct football team, but when we needed to, go direct. That's just the way it is. But you'd like to see a balance. And what you don't want to see is just kick and rush football, which is all out physical. And it's bypassing your midfield. And your 10's never involved. And your big striker's like a 1-in-5 goal scorer. But you know what? You nick a game 1-0. That's not for me. Some people love it. If it works for them and they win, great. Good luck to them. But as long as I own a football club, I don't think I'm going down that route ever again.
All right. Last question that's non-posh related, then we have a couple of quick fire posh questions. So Nathan Scott Pearson asked, and maybe we touched on this when we talked about non-league a little bit. Excuse me. Is it viable for clubs to start next season and potentially finish it with maximum 20% capacity? We talked last week, I think, about trying to get folks in and up to, Christmas, post-Christmas, maybe we're back at 100%. As things continue to be in flux and you see new lockdowns or, the government stopping these trial events, if you're at a 20% situation all season, I know that from your perspective, you kind of budgeted on a pessimistic outcome. Are we going to lose more clubs if we can't get more than 20% in all year?
Obviously, I saw the Boris thing last week where he's rolled back on the experiment thing, and everyone's worried about that effect in October. I go the other way. You look at the science, the numbers, and everything. They can't keep doing this forever. They can't keep locking people up. They can't keep stopping businesses operate. They just can't. I know people have died from the virus. I understand, and I'm not getting into the virus. People get upset if I talk about it too much, but the mortality and everything else and the difference, you just can't keep doing this to businesses. It's impossible. So I would bet my right nut that we'll have more than 20% by Christmas in grounds. Because football's a big industry. It generates a lot of money for the government. And if you're going to go down this route, you are going to lose football clubs. And you're going to lose. It's not just football; it's restaurants, it's everything, It's cinemas. You just an economy can't keep bailing itself out. It can't keep printing money. It's just down the line, someone's going to have to pay the bill, and it's just not realistic. And now you're seeing a lot of people, the suicides, the depression, all the things, the numbers that are coming out now are scaring the people out. In America, you've seen it; they were arguing about kids going back to school, but now there's more kids have committed suicide than actually died from COVID. So you've got to weigh all this up. So you'd like to think, I still think October, we will have a percentage of fans back. And I think by Christmas, because what's looking likely now, which we never really thought was possible, is there is going to be a vaccine before the end of the year. And once and I think there's like 3 of them or 2 of them. Once the vaccine in, there is no more excuse for lockdowns. There is no more excuse for no crowds, because if there's a vaccine there, you're given the choice. Go take the vaccine or take the risk. I guess that's going to be the thing at the time, because you can't justify keeping people at home once there's a vaccine to a problem. So I would imagine January on, I'd be very surprised if we aren't back to near full capacity. Now, in the event we are only at 20%, it's going to be really tough for clubs. I don't think lots will go out of business. I think there'll be administrations. And there will be cases where the EFL we're going to have to help out. And the PFA, and I've said this from day one, we need pay cuts. We need players to realise what's coming, what might come, and they need to be empathetic to that.
Now, the PFA have been pretty quiet, unusually, through all of this, because it's not usually PFA usually like to be pretty vocal. Do you have any theories on why they've been kind of quiet through this right now?
They're a trade union, I guess, aren't they? Of sorts. I mean, you only look what's happening with teachers' trade unions in America. I mean, these things backfire on trade unions. And they have been really quiet. They were quiet when we needed them for testing. They've been quiet when we needed them for pay cuts. They offered mild advice. They're obviously going to be very much against the salary cap. Very much against that. They're a well-funded organisation. So far, if I'm wrong, I apologise. They have not offered the help financially. And all they want to do, and they're thinking short-term instead of long-term, because they're thinking of all the players maybe now who have clubs. So they don't want them to have pay cuts. But they're not thinking of 1,500 people who are unemployed, who need clubs. And next year could be 3,000 people unemployed. So you might have to get your members to take some short-term pain now of a 20% pay cut, which will allow some of the 1,500 people on the shelf get jobs and get back to football. Because clubs aren't going to go out and get those players, because they're going to have smaller squads because of what's happening financially. So unless the wages come down, you can't go sign more players, which means all those unemployed people are going to have an issue getting work. So it's kind of defeat.
And it's going to drive down the salaries, because then you've got supply and demand again imbalance with all these 3,000 players wanting clubs and being willing to get paid whatever it takes to get a job.
We have agents arguing over 200 quid a week, and we're saying this is a 2-year contract to a player in a pandemic. Stop being greedy and stop being stupid. You have other agents come on asking for double what a player was on last year. That's not going to happen. Wake the fuck up. PFA, wake the fuck up. Come to the table. I've been saying this for 5 months. Do a deal. You want to protect all your members, not just the ones who are working. Because if you're meant to be an association, what about the players who have not got jobs, who are going to get depressed, going to have mental issues, going to have drug issues? You're going to go down that route. You're going to have suicides. You're going to have addictions. You're going to have serious problems on your hands. But you're not helping. You're thinking, oh, why should clubs give pay cuts? Why should we do? This isn't about clubs trying to save money and pay it back to their owners. That doesn't go on in League One and League Two. Like, wake up. And this isn't about me trying to get one over on my players. Yes, I'm a businessman. I run a football club, but I'm trying to do the right things because I'd like to keep them all employed. I don't want to be in a position where next year I can't have 24 players. I can only have 17. That means 7 people are out of work. So I'd rather short-term pain for long-term gain. And then when the world gets back, things will go back. They'll go back up again. They won't get silly, but they'll go back up again. And that's everyone right now, and I've said this for weeks on the podcast, is you've got to eat some shit at the moment. We've all got to do it, and we've done it for months. And we're going to have to do it with our pockets and our wallets. And that's just the new reality we're living in until we get back to our old normal that we all love and miss. And unfortunately, short-term pain is there.
And we're all in it together, I think.
Yeah. Well, listen, I said it before, we all say we're all in the storm together, but we're in different boats.
Yeah, very true.
Some people are in cruise liners, some are in yachts, and some are in dinghies.
Yeah, with a hole in the bottom.
Yes, but in the same storm.
Yeah. So a couple of posh questions. Why? So this is from Mark Sisson, who asked about the 10-game season tickets that you offer. The question is really, why is there uncertainty about when it's going to be offered, and any update on this year?
No, because if we're allowed 20-25% back in, that goes to figure that we can get in 3,500 season ticket holders. If we go and sell a load of 10-game tickets, it wouldn't be fair letting them in above a season ticket holder who pays for the full ticket. So we'd rather let it run for a while before we do the 10 games. If you want to be secure and get back into football in October, in my opinion, buy a season ticket. If you want to see football after January, buy a 10-game ticket when we bring them out for maybe that period of time.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, we'd rather people invest in their season ticket. That's probably the most secure way of getting football back.
Yeah. And the other question was from Kevin Young, and that was, what's the thinking behind the preseason stream and charging for that versus making it available free?
So we use an independent company to do it. It costs money.
Yeah.
The company to do it, basically, they have to charge and they have to make money. We make a small percentage. They make a percentage. I'd love to be able to do it for free. We're going to do things for our fans. I know some people might have got a hump with that, but we are after a pandemic. There's been no income in football. Give us a break for a while.
Yeah.
I don't rain on us every time we're trying to make money from something, because like everyone else, we're trying to navigate through this storm in our own dinghy, and we're trying to make sure that we've got a competitive team. Yeah. So it's £3. If you want to watch the game, pay £3. If you don't, I understand. Sit it out. I get it. Do you know what I mean? But every little helps. We get a small percentage of the £3, and it helps. And that's just like people going on about when we did the masks. You're only giving £1 to charity. Yeah, but we're a football club. We have bills. We have employees. We have people who want to take off furlough. Yeah. We'll help a charity, but we have to have some for ourselves as well. We are a business.
Now, do you find, because I'm seeing this around Bradford right now, for Bradford, we don't have season tickets on sale yet. And we're still kind of figuring out what iFollow looks like and, how we can best structure things, I guess.
It'll be free for ticket holders.
Yeah. Have you found that supporters are really, they're trying to find ways to give back to the club? So there's different ways that you can be creative in enabling them ways to do that, and seeing shirts fly off the shelves, for example, just wanting to do something, knowing that the clubs have been in a lot of hurt for a few months. Is that something that you're seeing at Peterborough?
I've had emails from people who don't even live in Peterborough, who are lifetime fans, and they want to buy an executive package, and they don't want to use it. They just want to give us money. And I've had people who are not Peterborough fans who just enjoy the banter on Twitter and felt, they had to give us £100 and ask me on Facebook, how do we do it? And that, that's brilliant. For every troll that might not like me, you get the flip side to that. You get real football people who are like, this is a great club. So for us, it's buy some kit, buy some merchandise, go in the shop, sponsor some of the kids, do some sponsorship packages. If you bought a season ticket, brilliant. If not, go and buy one. Mm-hmm. Any way you can help is brilliant. We even put out the other day for volunteers to help us with the ground. The ground hasn't been open in 5 months. Now, we employ electricians and cleaners, but to stop us having to go out and employ more of them, we've asked for anyone who wants to volunteer, who has some time on their hands, because we had that offer before. Look, can you help us out? And we've had loads of people take us up on that. And again, that's brilliant. Like, our fans are brilliant, and a real community club like Bradford. Yeah. They want to help their football club. They realise Peterborough's not owned by owners who take money out of the club. They're owned by owners who put money into the club. It's a one-way system. It's a one-way system to win football games, whereas some clubs run a two-way system. There's owners who'll sell a player and they take all the money out of the club. Yeah. And then the wages aren't paid or whatever else. And we're not that football club. We never have been. I told you, I didn't buy a football club to get rich. I bought a football club to lose some of my wealth. And so far that's proved correct.
Yeah, never buy a football club to make money.
No, you start as a multi-millionaire. It's a great way to become a millionaire.
All right, well, we're going to take another break. And after the next break, we're going to wrap up with a non-football question and news of our competition winner. We're going to roll out the supercomputer and do the grand prize draw on our competition. So we'll be back in a moment. So everybody, welcome back to the last part of today's podcast. And we're going to start with a non-football question, and then we're going to go into competition time. And so the non-football question is just something that I loved that came across this week. And it's from Lee Lazzaretti. And the question from Lee is, how do you deal with stress?
Sex. Yeah, it's probably not a politically correct answer, but it's the truth. I'm a really... I'm one of those people, like I said, an addictive personality. I'm full on when I'm full on. And the best way for me to deal with stress, you can ask my wife that, and that's my answer. Makes me feel great afterwards. So I feel, on top of the world. And, I think it's really important. Look, some people will have alcohol. Some people will go for a walk. Some people will work out. There's so many different things. Now, I'm in the UK for a long period of time, so I don't have that option. There ain't a line of mistresses around the corner. So the way I would deal with it over here is I go into diet and workout mode.
Mm-hmm.
I love routine. So when I get into a routine, it helps with stress. So what I do, I print out a calendar, which starts tomorrow for me. And it's a 30-day calendar I get from the computer. And I tick off each day with a green marker when I follow the rules.
Yeah.
And what I'll do for 30 days will be, I'll do a 4-mile walk. I won't eat bread. I won't have cheese. I won't have soft drinks. I'll stick to chicken and meat and veg and water for a month, and semi-skim milk. And I'll start hitting the weights then 2 weeks after that. And usually in any given month, I lose about 15 pounds when I do that. And what keeps me stress-free is seeing that chart every day that I haven't broken the rules. There's no sweets, there's no cheat days, there's no pasta, there's none of that stuff. And I can get stressed at the best of times, particularly with football and everything else. And when I go to games or we have a bad result, what usually gets me up again is I'll FaceTime with a family, and they'll kind of bring me back down to earth and make me realize. And the other thing I always say to my kids, I say to everyone else, speaking to my kids, you failed an exam. I'm like, what's the worst thing that can happen after you fail the exam? And they're like, I said, did you die? Mm-hmm. Is life over? Is that it? Is that it? Like, you failed an exam. Oh, you had a shit day. Is that it? Okay, you wake up tomorrow, you go again. Guess what? Life's full of that. You're going to fail loads of things. You're going to fail exams. Yeah. You're going to get fired from jobs. You're going to have shit times. You're going to fail at business. People used to say to me, there's no such word as failure, just setbacks. It's bollocks. Everybody fails. Mm-hmm. We're all human. None of us are perfect. I've tried. It's very difficult to get perfection. But here's the reality in life. You're going to fail. But you have to fail a few times to succeed. And as long as you can outweigh and the balance is more success than failure, you're fine. But don't give up trying. Yeah. And don't get stressed by stuff. Yeah. You've got to keep plowing through. And I've always said, it's like you lose football games and you think you're never going to win another game. And it's so funny, you get down on yourself and the fans get down and your team gets down and you look like you're never going to win another game. And then suddenly you win a game and it all turns around. Yeah. So, again, it's not the end of the world. But that's my answer to stress. All
right. So now in quarantine, it's going to be exercise and health regime. That routine. I found that. So I've been doing a bit of a health kick for the last 6 months or so, and really found that just doing the same thing every single day, same like 5:15 in the morning, it takes away the excuses. And that's one of the things that I found really powerful is everything you can do to take away excuses from yourself. It holds you accountable, is really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And we all make excuses. Again, we're human. Mm-hmm. So it's always someone else's fault. And I'm one of those people that through the years and through the successes and the failures, if you're going to take the glory when it goes well, you got to take all the crap when it goes wrong. So, and you got to stand up and say, well, it's no one else's fault. I made that decision myself. Life's full of choices and decisions. You just got to make sure you make the right ones. Simple as.
All right, let's go into competition time. So I'm going to just tease out that we've been having a chat off mic about ideas for new competitions. So you're going to bring that up in a minute. Before we go there, let's go to the competition that we had this week, which was to give away a season ticket to a lucky winner who actually rated and reviewed the show on iTunes. And we had some fantastic reviews. So I want to thank everybody for doing that this week. Now, you can only see this if you're watching on the video. You can't see it on the podcast while I wheel in this supercomputer that I talked about, which is actually going to be a screen share that I'm doing on Zoom. What I've done is I've put together everyone who submitted into a grid in a Google Sheet and blacked it out so you can't see who those people are. Here we go.
So it's random.
So it's completely random. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger for everybody that is watching on the video can see. So what we see in front of us is basically a grid that goes, 5 across and 11 down. And Darragh, just let me know if you can see that on the screen.
I can see that, bro.
Awesome. Yep. So all I'm going to ask for you, Darragh, is to pick a square.
Okay, we're going to go with D8.
Okay, D8. So let's change that to white. Giggsy 333 looks like the winner. What I'm going to do just for everybody is I'm going to reset everything so we can see that there's lots of different names on there.
Brilliant.
So Giggsy 333, what you can do is if you email contact@hardtruthfootball.com just to you prove basically your ID there, find a way to do that with a screen share or something, then we'll sort out all the details for you. So congratulations.
Brilliant. Congratulations, Giggsy 333 season ticket. Let's hope you don't support Real Madrid. Like I said to you. Now, for the competition for next week, for those listening, we're doing a £500 giveaway cash. Instead of a season ticket, you can win 500 quid. You got to answer the question. And what you got to do, you got to email the answer to.
So we'll take email submissions to that same email address right now, which is contact@hardtruthfootball.com, while we get a website up and running. We're going to get a website up and running in the next couple of weeks, but for now, email it to contact@hardtruthfootball.com.
First of all, you have to put a review on the iTunes to enter, and then you have to send a copy of the review to that email with the answer to this question. All right, it's never easy if you want to win money. Money's not free. You got to follow that process, okay? Listen to the email address Phil just said. Put your review on iTunes. Make sure it's 5 stars, and then send your review with the answer to the following question: where did I fly from and to before I went to the UK? So, where in America did I leave? Where in America did I arrive to go on to the UK? 2 destinations. Get your answers in. 500 quid. We will send that money to you next week's episode when we announce the winner.
Awesome. All right. There's your instructions. Well, I want to wrap up then. I want to thank everybody again for listening in. Thank you, Darragh, for your time today. Technology permitting, our next episode is going to be August the 12th. And I say technology permitting. Hopefully by then you're out of quarantine. I'm actually going to be driving across America that week. We'll see how crazy an idea that was about going from Florida to California. So I'll be somewhere in the middle of Texas as we try and record, off hotel Wi-Fi.
But we get it done. You have a great time, and safe travels to you and the wife and kids.
Thank you.
Look after them.
Yes. So we'll be back next week, and to ask any questions, again, you can send them to Darragh on Twitter @DMAC102 or myself @PIDESON, or use that email address that I've just mentioned a few times, contact@hardtruthfootball.com. Until next time,
thanks, guys.
We'll see you again soon.